just fills you up. And if that music didn't fill you up enough, we welcome our guest speaker, Claire Hanson, who will fill us up even more. So welcome, Claire.
Thank you. Hi. Well, I brought with me some props. I'm a real visual person. I like light and color and pictures. So the story behind my selection today is that I really like puzzles too. So I was in the store and I saw this puzzle and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. It's got lots of color and contrast. And I'd never done a 2,000-piece puzzle before. So I really didn't know what I was buying into. And what we're going to do is go through the puzzle together. Thank you, Jim. Can you move it to forward? So I thought this would be a really easy puzzle to do. Because, you know, it's got all these bright balloons. Can you pull it forward a little? Yeah. And it's got lights, nice colors, and people and everything in it. Until you start sorting the pieces and find out that about 900 of those pieces are various shades of blue. Now on here, the contrast looks great. The sky is light, the water is dark, but when you break it all into 2,000 pieces, the last thing you see is any contrast. They all look alike. So as I began working on the puzzle, and it began to talk to me. It took me, 5-6 weeks to do this puzzle. Of course, I wasn't doing it full time, but I'd never, ever had a puzzle that took so long before. And so as it evolved, the picture started forming. And I started making an actual spiritual connection with it. Some of it was probably anger, but but I heard from it that it was trying to teach me lessons. No surprise, right? For instance, one of the lessons I was very pragmatic is the way you look at a puzzle piece determines whether you're going to find it or not. So like, I don't know how many of you put together puzzles. I would assume some of you, most of you have at some point. But you know how they have a little like toe coming out? And if this one had an odd toe, I'd look for that toe and I'd search through. And remember, we're talking 2,000 pieces here. I mean, it took me a week just to do the border. And that's pretty self-explanatory because it's got a straight edge. But anyway, that's about the only hint I had, I gotta tell you. And so I'd look for this piece, this toe that was, just so odd. This ought to be easy to find. I don't know how many times I said that. This ought to be easy to find. Well, after going through all the pieces, what I found out was I swore it wasn't even in there because I absolutely could not find it. And later on, obviously down the pike, I found it, but it was attached to another special feature of some kind, maybe an arm or whatever. I tend to name these things so that when I'm looking for a piece, I can say, I'm looking for a big head with a short arm on the right and a long arm on the left. Then it narrows down my search a little bit. So anyway, so as I'm looking and I'm discovering that these are tricking me, these pieces are tricking me, I began to see that our life's problems are the same exact thing. In other words, the way we look at a problem can determine whether we find a solution or not. So if you look at it, if you have a problem of any kind, and you're looking at it and you're not finding a solution, try turning it around and seeing it from a different angle, and maybe the solution will find you at that point. Then also looking at the picture, you can see it just really involves the feeling of freedom, and the sky's the limit. Those balloons are going to take off and just go up into space and the beautiful sky and as far as it wants to go. And so it's almost limitless. And I began to thinking, well, that's kind of the way life is again, because the balloon has no limits, but really we don't have any limits either. And the only limits that we have are the ones that we place on ourselves. So to me, the balloons represented our spirit self. It began to evolve to the way they represented my spirit self. And it was our true nature. The colors and sizes are reflected in the water. But again, that message there is that whatever we put in our spirit self, that is the true self, the true balloon. What we see in the pond is only a reflection of what is in our true balloon. And the colors that are there are our real colors. So the more we put into our spirit balloons, the better reflection we're going to get in our physical world, in our life world right down here. We can get caught up in the idea that the physical self is the real self, those people walking around that kind of represented the here and the now in our human body. And they're looking at the reflection in the pool. But the reality is that it's what's in our spirit self that is important. Now, most people, I don't know if any of you have taken a balloon ride or not, but most people think a balloon goes up, hot air balloon goes up, and it just drifts. Of course, they have the chase car, and it comes down wherever it wants, and that they have no control over which direction they go. But here again, that's not really true. If you talk to a ballooner, they'll tell you that they measure weather patterns, and they measure flow, like the jet stream and weather fronts coming in and so forth, and that whatever level they go to determines which direction they're going to glide. So if you go up only slightly, you're going to get pretty much a flow the way you feel it down on the ground. You know, if the wind's coming from the west, you're going to flow east, and so forth. But when you get up to higher elevations, that no longer is true. The weather and the streams of air currents, are what determine which direction. If you think about, there was a man that actually went around the world in a balloon and was able to navigate that way by just checking. So wherever you go, wherever the balloon goes, influences which direction they're going to flow. So of course, it was teaching me the same lesson about life, is that whatever height we choose our spirit balloon to go determines which direction we're going to flow and where we're going to land. And so if you have ideas that what you practice in life you have no control, you need to think about the fact that your decisions are your control, and that they determine how your outcome is going to be and which way, which direction you can plan. So where you fly your spirit balloon will determine where you go. So I thought about it and I said, okay, so the ballooner thinks about weather. But we think about weather too, only this weather is spelled W-H-E-T-H-E-R. So it's whether we choose to believe this or that. That's a weather pattern for us. Whether we choose negative or positive. Whether we surround ourselves with love and understanding or with judgment and resentment. That's a weather pattern again. Whether we can contribute to the benefit of and the betterment of our physical world, or just sit back and allow us to be swept away by the tide. If you have the capability, then you can do like what my beautiful daughter is doing. She didn't know I was going to give her a commercial, but she's collecting for ocean cleanup as her as her birthday fund. So if you're interested in helping to clean up the oceans, you can see her. But I think that's such a wonderful example of how we can choose whether we want to participate in bettering our lives and bettering our surroundings, or if we're just going to sit and let the tide roll over us. So as I'm doing this more and more, of course, I'm learning a lot and thinking about how can I determine my destination or my journey, actually. How can I raise my spirits, and what weathers do I need to choose to help determine final outcome or whatever problem, have final resolution if you have a problem. And I always revert to the spirit because I find that even though we don't always see it or feel it, that spirit is there talking to us and guiding us and allowing us to hear what we need to hear. But there's even a bigger lesson from this puzzle. What's the first thing maybe that you noticed when Jim flipped the paper over? It says, there's a piece missing. That's right. And this was the biggest lesson of all. Well, first of all, you can imagine after 5 weeks of trying to put this puzzle together, to not have the piece. I was less than happy. I looked all over. We climbed all over the floor, talked to my cat. Did she enjoy her treat? You know, because she loves to carry things in her mouth. And I thought, oh my gosh. So then I thought, you know what? That's okay. It's missing a piece. But isn't it interesting that there's 1,999 pieces in that picture, but what do we notice? We notice the one piece that's missing. As much as you people have been listening to me, I'll bet a lot of you have in your mind saying, it's missing a piece, it's missing a piece. Now, so, yeah, well, it is, because it's so obvious, you know. So, again, the puzzle started teaching me, and I realized, first of all, I realized that as I went through all 900 pieces of blue, because there were times when all I could do was line them all up. Literally, I had a table part of it that I just lined them all up, and I tried almost every piece. Anything that could maybe fit, I tried it, see? And of course, I found out that none of them worked because only the right piece in the right place will work. And so as I'm looking to this one piece missing, I began to think that in a way, we're puzzle pieces too. For one thing, we come in a variety of shapes. We come in a variety of colors, from chocolate to milk, if you will. We come in a variety of sizes, tall, short, and so forth. So in a way, that makes us like a puzzle piece, because no two of us ever are alike. So only one will work in that place. And no matter how much I tried to maneuver pieces, I could not find two that were close enough that they would work. It was just not going to happen. So what this was telling me is that we all have a special place in the overall picture of what God is trying to create. I mean, this is a beautiful picture. It inspired me in a lot of ways. I'll never do it again. But still, you know, it's true that only the right piece can have a special place. And that's the way we are. We have a special place in God's picture. And only the right person in the right place at the right time, and only you can do what you need to do and what you are there for. And this is what we call in Unity God's law of individuality. This is what makes us unique. As we look around here, we see lots of different puzzle pieces. and even as you go out into your life and you're there with thousands of people, you can remember that only you has the right size, the right shape, and the right color to do what you can do to fill that piece. It doesn't mean that we're not important, or that, you know, or in fact it means that we are important, and that is focused on in the puzzle. So, I'm going to show you what happens, because I ultimately did find the missing piece. So I'm going to try. And I put it on here because I really feel that if I hang this up, I'm going to keep the piece dangling to remind me that I am special and that only I can do this. So I'm going to try to get it in here. There you are. I hope that you're able to appreciate what I'm trying to say to you, is that you really all are very, very special. But not just special, but you have a purpose, a meaning, a place in God's picture. And only you can perform that. That's the lesson I'd like to show you that my puzzle taught me. So now we're going to do meditation. So if you get comfortable in your chair and relax, close your eyes if you're comfortable with doing so. And we are going on a hot air balloon ride. So follow me. First, we're going to walk across the grass and enter the gondola. And it doesn't look all that secure, but we're reminded that God is there and the angels are there to keep us safe and comfortable. We notice that the burners are already heating up the air, getting ready for our flight. The flame is glowing, and we can look up inside the envelope, which is what they call the balloon, the envelope. and see the beautiful, beautiful colors. The captain invites us to get comfortable. The balloon slowly starts to rise as the burner engages, and you can hear the blast. We feel a sense of awe and freedom as we see the ground getting further and further away. Silently, we rise, cool, silent, quiet. Soon we're higher than the treetops, and we can feel the air shifting in new currents. There are different temperatures. Down at the ground, it was warm and inviting. Up here above the treetops, it was cool and refreshing. The air seems so fresh, like a new beginning. Slowly, we begin to drift sideways. Our houses and roads that we see below are so familiar. And then we're out in the country. We see the sun casting shadows and making changes of the shapes as we drift over them. As our height increases, we begin to see a larger picture of our corner of the world. We see how everything fits together. The fields attach to each other, but each has its own shape and texture. Corn here, beans there, vegetables in small patches. We see cars on their way to a chosen destination. All has a place. All has a purpose. Smaller towns drift by, and then we see rivers flowing and meandering around obstacles. Wow, what a view. As we get even higher, we note that we are closer to the clouds than the ground. Our spirit attaches itself to the vapors of fluff. We are in God's country. We feel His presence, and His Spirit surrounds us. Spirit welcomes us, loving us, and blessing us. We know we belong to both the earth and the clouds. God's love and messages are so clear up here. We can hear His voice, and we can feel the love and acceptance. We linger there because it's such a beautiful place, such a calm place. But slowly our balloon begins to descend. But we feel like we are bringing the clouds and spirit down with us. We have experienced the gift of knowing we are part of everything. We remember that when we saw the larger picture, our lives have importance, not just to us, but to the whole world. We belong. We attached. We're part of everything that we see and experience. Slowly, slowly, we come down, and we notice that everything feels different. We are one. We are one. As we touch softly to the ground, our reality of daily life comes back to us. Will we have the same problems, the same crises, the same challenges? But it feels different now. We know who we are. We know we are a gift. we know we are at peace.